Alright, what's up guys? Brian here, and this is my thoughts on some of the things coming out of last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. So let's get right into it. Two things. First, concerning the Royal Rumble, we found out that Brock Lesnar's next title defense of the Universal Championship will take place at the Royal Rumble. He's going to be defending against Kane and Braun Strowman in a triple threat match. That was made official at the beginning of last night's Raw, where Kurt Angle was basically came out and said he was going to make a decision as to who was going to be the number one contender and who was going to face Lesnar. And then Kane, Braun Strowman both came out separately, making their claim. Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar, who were going to be there last night, they came out, and Kurt Angle made the announcement that Lesnar, Kane, and Strowman will battle it out for the Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble. They then got into a huge brawl that ended with Kane being hit with an F5, Strowman being knocked out of the ring by Lesnar, and that was pretty much it. So that is a huge match coming up at the Royal Rumble on January 28th, 2018. We saw the debut of Hideo Itami, who is going to be a part of the 205 Live roster, the Cruiserweight division. He came out after a handicap match between Finn Balor and The Miztourage that ended with The Miztourage getting disqualified because they were double teaming Finn Balor. They kept beating down Balor until Itami made his way out, and him and Finn Balor cleared the ring of the Miztourage. This led to a tag team match with Balor and Itami defeating Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, the Miztourage, in a tag team match. So a huge debut for Itami. There had been talk of him being on the 205 Live roster and being a part of the Cruiserweight division. He was supposed to debut tonight on 205 Live, but they pushed his debut to Raw last night, apparently to get people to talk about 205 Live, about the Cruiserweight division. They're supposed to be doing a 205 Live tour coming up in January, and that is why they brought up Itami to the Cruiserweight division, as well as they announced that Bray Wyatt and Woken Matt Hardy, who are not Cruiserweights, are going to be wrestling on that tour. So hopefully, and apparently ticket sales are not doing so well, so WWE figured, let's bring Hideo Itami, let's bring him up to the Cruiserweight division, let's put him on 205 Live, and then let's have, Bray Wyatt and Woken Matt Hardy a part of this tour fighting each other. So we'll have to wait and see if that helps or not. So personally, I'm not going to say anything bad about the 205 Live or the Cruiserweight division, but it's not what it used to. It's not what it was when guys like Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero, and Paul London and Brian Kendrick and all them, and Billy Kidman. That was a Cruiserweight division. I have nothing against this division of Cruiserweights, but it's not. It really doesn't do it doesn't do anything for me as far as making me care. So, but it is what it is. I mean, some people might like it, might like the Cruiserweight division. Some people don't. So, it is what it is. Let's see, what else? Speaking of the Cruiserweight division, we found out that Cedric Alexander is going to be next in line for an opportunity at the Cruiserweight Championship. He earned that opportunity last night on Raw, defeating Drew Gulak in a one-on-one match in what I didn't think was a bad matchup. Of course, Enzo Amore, the Cruiserweight champion, he was on commentary. him and Gulak are part of the Zoe train, and he wanted Gulak to win, but that did not happen as Cedric Alexander with the lumbar check won that match, and now is in line for a cruiserweight title opportunity. We saw the return of the Revival. They defeated Heath Slater and Rhino. Of course, the Revival, plagued by injuries. Dash Wilder had a broken jaw, and then when they were ready to come back, they came back, and then Scott Dawson suffered a bicep injury, and now hopefully they don't get injured again. I'm a big fan of the Revival, and I think they're a pretty good tag team. They're very talented. They basically remind me of the old ways of being a heel tag team. They work well together. So hopefully they don't get injured again, neither one of them, and they can become tag team champions. So we'll have to wait and see. And then they did an injury angle with Dean Ambrose. He was involved in a 6-man tag team match with Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan, taking on Cesaro, Sheamus, and Samoa Joe. Basically, he had his elbow, I don't know if it was his left or right elbow, taped up, real heavy. And when him and I believe it was Samoa Joe and Cesaro were outside the ring, Rollins did a dive through the ropes and knocked all three of them down. And Ambrose looked like he landed on his elbow to the point where the referee had to call the doctor over to check him out. They wound up losing this match to Cesaro, Sheamus, and Samoa Joe. And then in a backstage segment with Seth Rollins and the WWE physician, they was checking on Dean Ambrose. Joe, Cesaro, and Sheamus would attack, and this would end with Samoa Joe trapping Dean Ambrose's arm in a one of those boxes that they have, equipment boxes or whatever it is. And that was pretty much it for that segment. Apparently, Ambrose has been dealing with some elbow issues, and I don't know if I don't remember if it was his right arm or his left arm was taped up. He had like a brace, like one of those black arm braces on his arm. But hopefully nothing serious. They did that angle on last night's Raw to cover up what looked like a legitimate injury, but we'll have to wait and see if it's serious or not. So, and then of course we found out another huge announcement concerning the Royal Rumble event, and that is for the first time ever we are going to see the first ever all women's Royal Rumble match. Stephanie McMahon made the announcement last night with a bunch of the Raw women's superstars in the ring. She made the announcement saying that the women's division has evolved. She also mentioned all the first evers, like the first ever women's Hell in a Cell, first ever women wrestling. I don't remember where it was. I think it was like Saudi Arabia or one of those overseas countries for the first time ever in a women's championship match. The first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. First ever women's main eventing Raw, NXT events, pay-per-views. And then she made the announcement that there's going to be an all-women's Royal Rumble match. Of course, after that announcement was made, a lot of the past women, like Trish Stratus, Lita, sent out tweets saying that, talking about that. Trish Stratus even teasing of maybe she's going to be in it. We'll have to wait and see. But my thoughts on this is that finally they made the announcement after months of people talking about it. And we'll have to wait and see how it turns out. So, hopefully, are they going to do the same thing like they do with the men's Royal Rumble? Are they going to have where it's going to be, different time intervals? How are the fans going to react to it? All these questions, all questions, going into this with this matchup, first time ever Women's Royal Rumble. I'm not going to say anything bad until I see it and see how it turns out. So, like I said, I will have to wait and see how it turns out. Who's going to be in it? Are there going to be any surprise entrances? So it's going to involve, women of Raw, the women of SmackDown. Is there going to be, women from NXT involved? We'll have to wait and see. So I thought it was a huge announcement. But like I said, I'm not going to judge it until I see how it turns out, and how will the fans react to it as far as the match itself. We'll have to wait and see. But there was a huge announcement made on last night's Raw. My overall thoughts on last night's Raw it was an okay episode in my opinion. Those are just the things that I just mentioned are a few things that I saw that really stood out to me coming out of last night's episode. So we'll have to wait and see what happens next week, which will be the Christmas Day edition or Christmas night edition of Raw next week. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there, and see what happens in the weeks leading up to the Royal Rumble event. So, with that being said, for anybody that watched last night's Raw, let me know what you guys thought of the episode last night in the comments below. This has been my Raw semi-recap of some of the things that happened on last night's Raw episode of Raw. So, with that being said, I am Brian, and thank you for watching.